Shalom, shalom, Israel, shalom. It's your brother Joshua back with another quick coffee break and a quick exhortation for brothers and sisters in the truth, right? And I titled this video Part 2 of Edible Plants in the Wild, right? Part 2. I wanted to come and give a little insight on a couple of edible plants that you can use when you're out on your journeys as a pilgrim on the earth, if it be your lot to be on the run in these last days, right? We have to prepare ourselves all physically, spiritually, and mentally to endure the times and the great evils that are approaching on the earth. And a lot of us Israelites want to go to, or going to become pilgrims on the earth. And what I mean by pilgrims on the earth is be out in the wilderness, maybe for only the Most High knows how long, right? Trying to endure escaping persecution, right, from Esau's armies or these other nations or whatever it is, right, that may be tracking, right, or, things of that nature. But in these times, you're going to be tried. There's going to be famines, right? Different pestilences, things of that nature. And you're going to have to eat. You're human, right? You still got to nourish yourself. You still got to know what to do. You just can't pick up anything and consume it, right? And especially if you're not able to catch an animal. You're not able to catch a deer or anything like that, right? There's things that are set in place that the Most High has given. So you have to make yourself ready mentally for the battle that's ahead, right? I got a precept real quick, the classic, right? Let's pull it out. It's the book of 2nd Esdras, chapter 16 and verse 40. And it reads, "My people, hear my word. Make you ready to the battle. And in those evils, be even as pilgrims upon the earth." So in those evil times, you have to be ready, right? The evil times is speaking of the times that are on the way, right? When there's going to be no running water. There's no food stores, or, you can't get any quick convenience in these gas stations or things of that nature, man. You can't go just pick up, a pizza or something like that. And you're going to be on a run. You're going to be out there maybe for days in on a time, right? And you're going to have to sustain yourself, and especially if you have family that's along with you, right? And the Lord has given you substance, right, that's literally grown out of the earth that you have to be mindful of and look for, right? Let me get another precept before we move on. This is the book of Genesis, right? Chapter 1 and verse 11, and it reads, "And the Most High said, let the earth bring forth grass, the herb yielding seed, and the fruit tree yielding fruit after his kind, whose seed is in itself upon the earth, and it was so. And the earth brought forth grass and herb yielding seed after his kind, and the tree yielding fruit, whose seed was in itself after his kind. And the Most High saw that it was good," right? I'm going to jump down to verse number 29, and it reads, "And the Most High said, Behold, I have given you every herb bearing seed, which is upon the face of the whole earth, and every tree that which is the fruit of the tree, yielding seed. To you it shall be for meat," right? So for you, it's for meat, right? It's for consumption, for you to sustain yourself, right? And my job here today is to come make you aware of some of those things that are edible and available to you while you're out there as a pilgrim on the earth, right? And I'm going to get about 5 or 6. So let's see. Let's get right to it. Let's see. The first one is called a primrose or a primrose, right? Let's check it out. See what that's about. Boom.
First up, we have the Primrose, aka Primula vulgaris. One of the first plants to emerge during the spring, but often as early as winter, the woodland-dwelling primrose is an abundant source of food during seasons where that can be scarce. An impressive and bushy plant composed of numerous tongue-shaped leaves and pale yellow flowers. But to accurately identify a plant, you must scrutinize over its smaller, finer details. Its leaves are broad and are deeply crinkled and craggy in texture. It has a prominent white midrib running down the length, while underneath it is a much paler shade of green with a light coating of fuzzy hairs. And its pale yellow flowers have 5 individual notch petals that turn an egg yolk yellow towards the base. And, unlike many other plants, its leaves do not grow out of the flower stems, nay, instead they are a basal rosette, meaning that they all grow out of the ground in a somewhat circular cluster. And once all of those features have been met, then you can be certain that it is a primrose, and what a delight that would be, as all parts of this plant are edible. The flowers and stalks can be eaten raw, as can the craggy and crinkled leaves, which have a pleasant and slightly sweet taste, very similar to that of lettuce. And although it is a spring bloomer, this plant can also be found throughout the summer and far into autumn, so there is certainly no shortage. You may also find these in orange.
Praises. Right? The primrose. Right? Plant. Right? So let's go to the next one. It may have been a little bit more on that, but you have to look it up on your own time. I think I might have cut that one a little short. Salakia for that. Right, so let's go to the next one. This is called the thistle. Right? The thistle.
Be showing you today. So moving on to the thistle. A familiar sight along the hedgerows and tree lines, the common thistles are easy to spot due to their bulbous eruption of purple flowers, which later turn into those thick clouds of fluffy seed. Notorious for its many prickly spikes, all parts of the plant are covered in unwelcoming spines and prickly bracts, with each of those dark green leaves being host to a very sharp, stiff needle at the end of each lobe. A nuisance to handle, but fortunately for those looking for food, it is the root of the thistle that is edible. In the spring this is an easier job, but knife in, lift up and pull out, to reveal the thick and substantial lengthy tap roots, which are full of carbs, sugars and calories. A good survival food that contains everything a starving soul would need. You can eat them raw, just like a carrot or a stick of celery, and the leaves and stalks of the thistle are technically edible too, providing that you cut away all of those sharp needles and bracts. Fireweed. Impressively tall and showy. When fully grown, the fireweed plant will stand upward to 8 feet tall.
Right, so that is the thistle, right? Another edible plant. Right, let's go to the next one, which is called the ox-eye daisy, or the ox-eye daisy, right? Let's check this one out.
A burst of energy. But why not supersize that meal with the moon daisy, otherwise known as the ox-eye daisy? Bigger and bolder in every respect, the old ox-eye is a daisy on steroids. Knee height and 10 times the size, its yellow and white frilly flower heads are a substantial source of food, typically found in meadows and underneath open canopy forests. It also features furry stems and serrated, succulent, almost cactus-looking leaves, which is a key feature that separates it from lookalikes such as dog fennel, which has thin, feathery, wiry leaves. But pretty though ox-eyes may be, their scent, however, is one of the worst. Another unique identifier of this plant is that when the flower is crushed or damaged, then it will release a pungent and nauseating odor. A strong deterrent. It truly is foul, certainly not anybody's first choice for a V-Day bouquet. But this is slightly offset by its central yellow disc tasting lightly of pineapples. So, an absolutely delicious taste to compensate for its noxious scent. Hawthorn. You've likely heard the red berry
That's interesting. The ox-eye daisy, right? It's something to look out for. All right, let's go to the next one. which would be wild garlic, right? I've never seen garlic out here in the wild. Let's see what this is about. Check that out.
Considered one of the best tasting plants that you can find out here in the wild. Its edible parts include the fresh leaves, the stems, the white flowers, and the vertical wiry seed pods. All parts of the plant have a strong garlic and oniony flavour, with the fresh leaves having this taste. A welcome change from the comparatively bland taste of other edibles, its tasty leaves appear early in the spring and last throughout the autumn. So not only is it delicious, but it is also widely available. You should favour the top portions of the plant as they contain all edible components and are much fresher and flavoursome. So delicious, in fact, that they were once a staple herb in European cuisine, frequently added into salads for a spicy kick. Nowadays, though, the plant has lost its lustre and is now considered an invasive weed, as it dominates and overcrowds the local flora, eventually colonising entire swathes of land, which makes it a menace to the ecosystem, but very convenient to those looking for food. So
right.
Due to its abundance...
So that means it is abundantly available, right, everywhere, all over the land. So you can look out for that wild garlic. It'll definitely be a substance that you can partake of in the wild, man. Something that is definitely mighty and will be put to great use. And wow, this is another one. Now, I didn't know it was edible, right? Maybe some of you have known that this is edible, but let's check it out. This is the pine needle. I never knew that the pine tree was edible like that, let alone the needles, right? But I think
fueling your venture. Pine needles, an evergreen food source available all year round. The green and coniferous needles of the pine tree have a fresh and minty taste and can be eaten raw, straight off the tree. Although, since they tend to grow very high up on the tree, you may have to settle for those fallen to ground. This particular species of pine is Scots pine, which has 3 to 4 inch long needles, which always come in pairs of 2. However, other species of pine will differ. Pine needles have very little calories and thus they do not have much value as an energy source. But since they taste so nice and contain tons of vitamin A and C, they are more often steeped into hot water to make pine needle tea. A refreshing and nutritious minty beverage that will sure as hell break the monotony of drinking the otherwise bland and boring cups of pond water. Pine nuts. And while you're out collecting
pine needles, right? All praise to the Most High. I can make tea and everything with that, man. Right? Let's get one more. Let's see. This phone is kind of going off right now. Let's go. This is the poppy seed, right? This is the poppy seed. Check it out.
The jackpot. Poppy seed. With 4 overlapping scarlet red petals and protruding black stamens, the bright and vibrant poppies are easy to spot from a distance. But beautiful though they may be, their edible value, however, comes from once the flower has died. Once the petals fall, what's left behind is a bulbous oval pod, which is initially green but will soon dry and harden into a brittle straw-coloured pod. Just crack these pods open and inside you will find hundreds upon hundreds of small black poppy seeds. Yes, like pepper grounds but smaller and more kidney-shaped, these highly nutritious and edible seeds are actually one of the highest sources of calories that you can find out here. Per gram, they have 5 times more calories than chicken breast and 3 times more calories than steak, which may sound absolutely outrageous, but since nuts and seeds are super high in fat, their calorie content is much higher than most things. Poppy seeds are 70% fat. So should you stumble upon a bunch of dry poppy pods, then count your blessings, because that's Mother Nature's way of telling you to carry on, son. You will not starve to death. Just eat them
that's
straight out
mighty.
the pod.
That's mighty right there. So the Lord has set forth edible things growing out of the earth that you should partake of, right? And definitely has properties to sustain you for food and for health, Right, let's get one more precept and I'm going to close it out. It's the book of Sirach. Right, another classic. Chapter 38 and verse number 4. And it says, the Lord hath created medicines out of the earth, and he that is wise will not abhor them. Right, so these plants are not only good for food, but they're also good to sustain your body with different types of vitamins and health properties, right? So I hope that was edifying and you will take this to heart and understand that the time is approaching where there's famine coming and evil days of darkness, right? So get ready to the battle, Israel, and get your spirit and your mind and set your house in order, right? But with that, I'm going to say shalom.